Hey guys, welcome to Coffee with Mirko, episode number 15. I'm very excited. Today it's a beanie kind of day. Felt like it. It's pretty cold here in Melbourne. So, as per usual, we gonna make coffee. So, my water is heating up, and we're gonna just make a lovely AeroPress until we can get this show started. So, as per usual, hopefully you are well, you're safe, and you are achieving all the things that you want to achieve. I'm just gonna actually wet the paper off my filter, so we get rid of that nasty papery flavor. Here we come. So today we're going to be joined by barista, roaster, trainer, and former German barista champion, Nicole Battefeld. So very excited. She's also ranked top 5 in the world for coffee and good spirits. So a real true hustler that really covers all the corners of the coffee game. So I'll brew some coffee, make some coffee. We're drinking today a Mexican natural from the boys at Gridlock, a small coffee roaster here in Melbourne. And yeah, so in today's chat, as usual, we're gonna go through a series of questions. You can recatch the live if you are not able to follow it, and it will be very interesting to really discover a lot of different areas within all the many skills that Nicole has, and you guys can obviously ask all the questions. I'm really excited to meet with her, see where she's at, and yeah, once the coffee is ready, she will join us. So now it's time to say hi to a few people. Mitchell, good to see you again. Yokoshima, Zika Fair. Nicole is in the house too, so hey Nicole, we'll see you very soon. And yeah, I've actually been dying for my second cup of coffee, but I usually wait for the show so that I don't get over caffeinated. I used to drink way a lot more coffee than I do these days, but it's all good. Let's go for the best. For the people joining in right now, I'm gonna type it in the comment and pin it. So today we're talking with Nicole Battefeld. Apologies, Nicole, for my pronunciation for the surname. So chatting with Nicole Battefeld. So you guys are in for a good treat. She's just everything in coffee. Barista, trainer, roaster, competition. She won the 2018 German Barista Championship. So you know, a true hustler in the game. Hey, Connolly, Nafia, barista on bike, Tanya. Time to plunge. And hope you got coffee. Get yourself coffee. You'll need it. We're gonna get started. Coffee with Mirko. It's a gloomy, rainy, very cold day here in Melbourne. So this is gonna really do the trick for me. And I really look forward to have a good chat with Nicole. And yeah, and with all of you guys, of course. You can ask all the questions in the world. Well, and we'll see what we can learn today from this amazing professional in coffee. Perfect. I love this cup because it just fits the perfect amount of my AeroPress. So without further ado, I'm going to send an invite to Nicole and we can get this started on the way. Here she Nagi Saba Razafatu. Yo!
Hello.
What's good? I love the beret. I'm wearing a beanie.
Oh, I know. Gotta wear something colorful in this rainy, gloomy days.
Yeah, it's really cold here in Melbourne. How you doing up in Canberra?
Yeah, I think I start understanding that Australia isn't always warm. Yeah, it's been only raining for the last 3 days. It's really cold. I think today when I left the house was 3 degrees.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
used to feel the same when I first arrived in Australia, because I'm from the Alps. Basically, I'm on the border between Italy and Austria. You know where Garda Lake is, and you know, I thought that was cold. And I thought Australia
Yeah.
is going to be hot and it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be summer all year round. No, not until I got to Melbourne. So yeah, I feel you. I feel you. um, and first and foremost, everything good with you with the virus and everything? You're good. You're safe.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think I'm one of the few that actually did the corona tests because when everything started blowing up,
Cool. I mean,
I just, well, yeah, I just got back from Germany, like because I wasn't supposed to get back that early, and we had to book a flight all of a sudden, and basically 3 days later the borders were closed. So I just made it in time, and then they said, "Oh, could you do one of those tests?" I'm like, "Okay."
well, I guess, well, you look well, so I'm assuming that was negative.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
All is good. All right. I know it's a classic starter, but I think lots of people want to hear it and they're going to rewatch it. I did a little bit, I looked a little bit of your history, but you can tell us how did you start your coffee journey? And then we can dig in through more questions.
I think the general coffee journey, I started the same reason why everyone starts in coffee, mainly because I needed money. Wasn't a very, very, very romantic background. I was just like, okay, I need a job. I need to finance my driver's license. So after I finished school, I just started working in a cafe. But lucky for me, it was a very good cafe. And we had a Lamatsoko GB5. And back then, we had Maza grinders, the ones
Oh, yeah.
with the pedal, which was like 12 years ago. That was what you had to have.
Yeah.
Um, and then, yeah, I just kind of like stayed working in hospitality ever since. And then I learned how to be a chef because I wanted to get more experience in flavors and how food in general works. And in this process, I moved to Berlin, and in Berlin, working restaurants, like star restaurants, and it was very stressful. I can tell you, anyone who wants to become a chef, it's very hard work.
Yeah,
um,
you're freezing on me, but I'm not sure if it's me or if it's Canberra. Um, hang on. Let me check my. Maybe I'll shut my Wi-Fi on my Mac. All right, you can hear me now. You good?
yeah, I
Okay,
could
cool.
hear you the whole time.
Okay, cool. Then it
Okay.
was me. So yeah, becoming a chef is not a stroll in the park. I have lots of chefs friends because
Oh,
obviously, OSPO and yeah, not easy, and
no,
uh,
it's very, very stressful.
and it can be
And
dangerous.
oh, watch out for flying pans. Yeah.
Yeah, and
And
crazy head
then,
chefs.
yeah, I had all of this. And then I kind of like really wanted to go back to coffee because it was just something that I understood way better. And then I started working for a small roastery. And I think 6 years ago, I applied for my first specialty coffee job and been happy there ever since. Like specialty coffee is just something that I really, really like and understand and learn more about it every day. So,
And in fact, you're pretty much an all-rounder, as they say in Australia, in the sense like you train, you compete, you're a barista, you roast, you kind of do a bit of everything. Tricky question, but what's your strongest passion or what attracts you the most? I mean, spirits as well.
mm, I think what I'm actually the strongest at is just being fast on the machine, to be honest. Like
Cool.
I'm just really strong
Special.
at,
That's
at
cool.
being fast on the machine. I don't know. But yeah, obviously the creative part is one of my like biggest passions. I'm like now when the quarantine is and when your menu is reduced and everything, I just sometimes come home and bought a couple of bottles of something and then I just start making cocktails out of the blue. And So Beyonce's like, okay, bring it on.
That's a good hobby. It's pretty, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Which
It's
actually,
just very
I was, yeah, go on.
it's just very interesting for me how flavors work together and what you can combine and then see how things develop because I usually have like a rough idea in my head or like a concept or a plan. And then it's really not as glamorous as many people think. I just stand here and do my, I don't know, plunger kind of like winging it recipe and then like, oh, I measure later and the flavors really work together. It's really good.
Yeah, a lot of times a mistake can turn into a new recipe. And I used to be a head bartender at a jazz club, and it's good fun. You know, you know how it
Yeah,
is.
it really is.
Which actually brings me to a question, which it's not even here, but I was watching your routine at Coffee in Good Spirit, and I was like, you must have drunk a lot leading up to the competition to try what combination. Like,
Oh my God, yeah. So trust me, it sounds more fun than it is because you have to organize your normal work schedule with your training schedule. So I was working like 6 or 7 days a week, but only after one. So they've reduced my hours, and the cafes in Berlin are open late. So I was working from like 1 p.m. till 7 p.m. Um, and I came in at 8 o'clock in the morning and started training and started my routines, started tasting. So by 1 o'clock, I was smashed and then had to start working. Oh, that was after I think after like 3 or 4 weeks, I just was like, oh God, I don't please don't give me any alcohol in combination with coffee. It's terrible.
yeah, yeah, I can imagine. That's why I was like, damn, like she must have. But hey, you know, you did amazing, and I really enjoyed your routine. It was pretty cool to watch, and yeah, you smashed this, so that's great. And then, I mean, obviously, one of your major achievements as far as your career is obviously winning the Germany Barista Championship, and we can safely say that it was also a big win for women in coffee. And you know, I feel that I like to see more and more women in coffee winning and coming up in this strongly used to be male industry. Do you feel, aside from the joy of winning, but do you feel a sense of pride and a little bit of responsibility as well with that?
So I have to say that in Germany, actually, there was a long story of women being the barista champions. It was Erna for 2 times, and then it was Chloe Natras before me, and then it was me. And this year, it is again a woman. Eileen won this year. So in Germany, it's actually not that uncommon. But what I've realized when I stepped out of my bubble, I realized that there's not many women when I go to conventions or anything like this. So I started thinking and I started being an advocate for women in coffee. And I think it's an important thing. But the last 2 years have shown us, in the world competitions especially, that the women that do compete, they're fucking badass. Like latte art champion, Brewers Cup champion, twice now, twice a woman, and then 2 times barista champion. It's just like, it just really is so impressive how this changed in within 2 years.
Yeah, sorry, you've broken up a couple of times, but yeah, I mean, it's been really good to see lots of women in their specialties to really succeed and make it to top floor of the world. But even in the nationals, like I just spoke to Andrea Allen, which is the USA 2020 barista champion, and you know, that was another amazing win for that country. So I didn't actually know the record of female representation in Germany, but I think it's great as well what you did with the entire concept of you know, women in coffee and create that awareness. And yeah, it's great.
I think what
What do
I,
you? Yeah, go on,
sorry, can I just say one thing? What I
please.
usually want to say, or the message that I have, is that it isn't that we're not allowed to compete. Like all of us are resemblance of women going there and competing and doing very well. I think what we need to share is the message that women have to be a little bit more self-confident to actually go out there and claim their place. And this is what I speak up for. I speak up for women being more educated or being more self-confident.
That's yeah, and that's pretty much the answer to the next question, which was like, what words would you have for young women, especially to get started? And yeah, that was
Yeah,
it.
just being self-confident, because a lot of the times we do talk ourselves down a lot, and we sometimes get talked down from other people. And just going through that and coming out stronger, I think is very important.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that I love what different women that I spoke to on the show had different message, and we went from you know be yourself to all the way to what you just said about generate a bit of a stronger self confidence. And you're absolutely right. And I think that being a barista, it goes so much further than the cup of coffee. It goes from the connection, the human connection, the interaction, the service,
Exactly.
the overall experience. I think we've lost kind of the human touch, and women can provide a certain amount of connection, which is different than men, and it's just part of nature. So there's a space for both, and I agree with you. I think that uh, we're gonna see more and more women progress in the coffee industry as well because of you guys who's been killing it. Each of you, whether it's first spot, second spot, fifth spot, being up there, it's like I want to be like her, and that's great for the entire industry. Um, so this is a little bit a question that I had, and it's a little bit no, it's kind of coffee related, but not. But like, have you been to Melbourne yet?
Yeah, yeah. Once,
Okay,
twice.
okay. Would you say that Berlin and Melbourne are kind of similar in a coffee way, or no? What's your take?
So the first time I visited Melbourne is like 7 or 8 years ago. And then the last, and I didn't recognize coffee, like specialty coffee, for what it is back then. And the last time I visited was in November, I think, for 2 or 3 days. I know that a lot of Australians say that Melbourne is the Berlin of Australia, um, which I do see in a lot of things. Like it's very urban and it is very hip and quite multicultural. And I think it's definitely a place where I would feel very at home. But in the coffee sense, I think it's more progressive than it is in Berlin.
Okay.
I think in Berlin it's very important that you still stick to a couple of boundaries and rules, especially for the Berlin customers, like the actual German customers. Although there's like very few Germans living in Berlin, but I've been to shops in Melbourne that just look like out of a design magazine, where you're just like, what? Okay. Which is really, really cool and really interesting, but there's just not that many places like this in Berlin.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's exactly why I asked that question because I've never been to Berlin. I've been to Hamburg, Munich, and all other cities, but for some reason never went to Berlin. But yeah, that's the thing that we hear. We hear that Berlin is like Melbourne is the Australian Berlin, and I just want to get your take. But it's like I get you. You're local. And how often do you go? um, how often do you go back to Berlin now that you're in Canberra?
The last time I went was for the German Championships in March. And and to compete in Coffee and Spirits, but that got cancelled then in the end. And then I was supposed to go back, hopefully, if I would have won, to Poland and everything. Like all of these plans are now overboard. So yeah, it's very, very unsure what I'm gonna do now, to be honest. Like,
Because now you're working at the Ona store at the cafe still?
I'm working for Honor at the High Road Cafe.
Yeah, High Road, yeah.
So I'm working for High Road.
Okay. Yes, yeah. And what over there, are you still able to work with the current situation, or
In Berlin, or?
Oh no, at High Road.
Yeah, I'm employed, which is very good. I'm very, very happy. I'm still earning money. Yeah, it's crazy how fast the whole company had to adapt to all of these situations. It was just a big chaos at the start, and then I've never seen people react so fast, like having plans left, right, center, being like, okay, we do this now, we do only takeaway, but we also do produce boxes. And I was just standing in the middle of this being like, okay, how can I help? It was really fascinating also seeing all of this extremely talented young people that have so much knowledge in coffee, then just thriving, going ahead, being amazing managers. It's really good.
Yeah, I mean, Ona has definitely a lot. You guys have a good team of professionals who are thriving from being passionate and loving the art of coffee. Like, under no doubt, is one of the roasters that really compile. Like, lots of people passionate, and they look at Ona and say, "This is where I want to be." And I think, well, last week or so, I had Matt Lewin, and we're talking about it too. And I think it's just the importance of having the right mentors around you, especially aligned to the goals that you want to achieve. So, if you want to become a barista champion, then you gotta find the people to work for that will allow you to get as close as possible to that dream destination of yours. So, yeah.
Well, it's also just that, I mean, I came from a foreign country and I didn't really know a lot of the people working here, and it is impossible to not make friends with them. It is so so great. So you go training and you ask your friends basically to give you feedback and to judge you, and they will give you the most honest opinion. But at the same time, this is much better than anyone being like, oh yeah, it was great, but not really. So I've actually had the pleasure of making so many friends here, in the little Honor universe as well, who I can just chat about competition as well.
That's great. It creates that hub, that community sense. So
yeah.
I get you. And I think that something that keeps popping out back into this conversation is people, going back to the human connection. I think people play such an incredible role within this industry, especially because it's hospitality first. The shop without people would not exist. And without the people, we could not provide coffee, of course, to the people. So, and that goes across the professionals. So that's one of my favorite parts. But I'm very passionate about people too.
And it goes definitely both
things calls us as actually. Sorry, keep going.
I just want to say it goes both ways. So if your managers give you all this trust and they realize that they need you to be passionate about your job, you as an employee really bring out your own passion to work for the company and make everything better. It's like, I have never been around a business model that is so close to their employees as here, and I am fascinated. It is really, really good.
It's different than Europe in many ways, for sure, especially.
Yeah, definitely.
So I know what you're saying.
Maybe it's a good feedback for people from Australia listening, because in Europe, or in Germany, what I know is that a lot of people work because they need to work, not because they are super passionate about it or they love what they do. They wouldn't, maybe they go to a job and they say, I don't mind it, but it's very rare that you meet people that say, I love my job. Very, very rare. Whilst
Yeah.
here, I'm just surrounded by people saying that, and I'm blown away by that positive attitude.
Yeah, definitely Australia is a good place for coffee professionals, 100%. And in fact, I met a lot of European or people from Asia or different countries who come to Australia, and if they can stay, that it's the place where they want to grow and expand their coffee knowledge and coffee network, and be able to maybe bring it back home. So I get what you're saying, 100%. And so Thingies Cosas is asking, how long did it take you before you became a barista champ?
I think I was working in specialty coffee for a year, and then I decided to take part in the 2016, a little bit. I was working a little bit more than a year in specialty coffee, and then in 2016, I just did it. I just thought I've got nothing to lose, and I placed second in my first competition ever in the German Championship, and I was like, whoa, okay. That was really good. So I decided to compete again.
And then you win 2018, so year and a half.
Yeah. Oh, and then there was no 2017 competition. So
Oh,
actually,
then yeah,
yeah.
there you go. The next time, that's pretty good. Like,
Yeah.
like there's people who like take them years. Yeah, no, that's really impressive. And sticking with the competition, because I think a lot of people underestimate the mental and physical work that goes behind it. I don't think that lots of people understand how many cups, how many jugs of milk, how much coffee, alcohol as well, but that's different competition that you had to go through in order to get to that stage. A, confident, B, also mentally prepared, because it's 15 minutes, 40 minutes. What was your secret that pushed you really towards winning? For some people it's like they're highly competitive. Some people it's like, I don't know, I want to do it for mom or whatever. Like,
Well, I think I've got a little bit of a problem with saying a good thing about myself to myself. Like I never say I'm good at this or that what I do is enough. So I think I wanted to do it in place good to show to myself or to prove that I'm good at something. Like, I don't know, I've never had a thing where I was exceptionally good. So I just really wanted to do that and prove not just to myself, but maybe also to others, because that there is something that I'm actually good at. I think that was the thing that really drove me.
that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Like, really, I think that now for real, like, I think a lot of people want that, but they get stopped. And it's super connected to the second question. I feel that lots of people, especially in this day and age, there's a lot of insecurities and there's a lot of fear of judgment, because whether it's a guy or a girl, it's like, oh, you're a barista. You should have been a doctor, a lawyer, a architect.
Should have studied,
So what
yeah.
should have studied. And, but at the same time, it's like, is it important to be happy and just do what you love?
Yeah, but as you said, so many people come in and they ask you, what's your real job, for example. And then you stand there and you're like, oh my God, what is my real job? I thought this is my real job. And yeah, just if it would be painting, I would have probably tried to paint very well. Like if I was thinking that could be possibly the best at that, or if it would be something else, I would have probably tried that. But I think as long as you think you're really good in something, there's nothing that stops you from trying to to prove it to yourself or to compete in it.
Yeah, and that was your secret to overcome basically that. That's great. 100%.
I mean, I'm still struggling. I'm still, every single time I compete, I still struggle against myself, and I still say, nah, I'm definitely not good enough. Definitely not. Especially this year when I went to the German championship and I knew that this was the hardest one that I've ever done. And I was in Canberra crying, being like, I don't want to go. I don't think I can do this. It was such a mental cluster that was in, and then still going on stage, trying to look professional, and then everyone else just sees the presentation and is like, you're so confident on stage and you're so well spoken, while the way that it took to get there was so frustrating.
And it's common too, in the sense of we watch routines, but it's like the work behind it, it's different level, and thank you for sharing that. I think a lot of people struggle with even admitting it, and I think the number one thing is, once you got that awareness, is also forgiving yourself and loving yourself, big ones for sure. And I think that in this day and age more than ever, it's super important. Even in business, I think there's an application to it. It's not just about being a hippie or into yoga. I think self-care and rest, sleep, overall well-being also is about performance, and forgiving and loving ourselves is definitely a good weapon in many ways. And yeah, I know what you're saying. I mean, I watched. It's funny that you said that you looked confident into the presentation, but that's the same with us, Lamb Butler, and he said, "Man, I was shitting my pants before the comp. Like, I'm glad that you thought I was calm on stage, but I'm like, I was nervous. I'm like, yeah." So I get what you're saying, which is great. Yeah, 100%. Someone asking if wearing a beanie is a requirement being a barista. No, but when you're in quarantine and you're trying to get your hair long, for myself, there, it's not pretty. Like,
oh wow.
I'm really trying, but yeah, it's that's what it is, man.
Oh boy.
That's all right. I always had a buzz cut, and when I quit my job last year and started my own business, I decided to go for gold. And like, you know what? I'm gonna let my hair grow because nobody's gonna care. It's just gonna be about me, and we go back about not caring, So
yeah, I've got a great story for that, from behind the stage at the World Finals. So when we all lined up and we were about to go out, where they announced the finalists, I was already like, oh, that was great being here. It was such a great experience, and I'm gonna be so glad when I don't have to do this again tomorrow. And then we went on stage and they announced my name, and I was not prepared, because I said, thank you so much, thank you so much. And then I looked at my team and I was like, we have to go to the shop now, because I've never practiced the Irish coffee. So we went back to the shop, and it was like 7 or 8 o'clock p.m. and we made about 16 different Irish coffee recipes. So we drank 16 Irish coffees. And then at like 11:30, I was so hyped up. I was shaking. I was half drunk, half over caffeinated. Had to go home. I was freaking out about everything. And then the next day, I was super, super tired, and I was in the backstage area. And you have to imagine, it's like Dan Fellows, Agnieszka, Mano, like all of these people that are so incredibly, they're giants to me. And then I was falling asleep backstage constantly because I was so tired. And everyone else just said, oh my God, this Nicole, she's incredible. She's so calm. I was like, no, not calm. Just so tired. Please, please. Yeah, it's about what you see and what actually happens.
Yeah, it's like, you know, it's like television, you know, or, you know, behind the video, there's a lot of things happening for sure.
Yeah.
But look, as far as I'm concerned, the routine looked good to me, but I can see how you could have been sleepy after sipping 16 Irish coffee the night before. Sounds about right. Especially because there's coffee involved. I think a lot of people forget that there's coffee involved. It's not just alcohol. So the buzz is
high,
like
very, 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 very high concentration of coffee as well, because you need to updose. So I think my dose was on 240 milliliters. I used 55 grams of coffee.
wow, that's a lot of coffee.
Yeah.
Maybe you could do the yoga Irish coffee in the next comp.
Yeah, maybe.
That was super creative. That's great. That's great.
Thanks.
Honestly,
Thanks.
I'm all about content creation, and I was like, that's clever. I was like, that's smart. I get it. That's cool.
Yeah, using ISO
Yeah.
for something creative.
Yeah, and I think we have a lot of coffee people in this industry who are also extremely talented in creative things like art and whatnot, and that's where I think being a barista is, or you know, a coffee professional is just sometimes like you're also a musician, a poet, an artist, you know, a painter. Even the way that you talk, paint, or sing about coffee. You know, I recently spoke this morning. I had an interview with a very famous farm in Panama. I'm sure you know which one it is, and they're gonna come on the show as well in a couple of weeks.
Oh,
And
amazing.
yeah, and it was super humble. Like honestly, I left that conversation. They just wanted to ask me a few questions. And that was it, and just to meet before the live. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. And the way this person was talking, I was like, man, like the love, the passion. It's like an art. It's not just your 9-to-5 job, and that's why you have stories like yours, stories like others who train a crazy amount of hours and they don't even feel it because they love what they're doing. And I think it's so important. And once you find that purpose, it just drives you.
Yeah, it kind of like is a thing that just goes by itself once you found it.
Yeah, 100%. And you can, 100%. And then you have all these amazing people around and they're supportive, and it's like you connect, and it's like you might meet someone once and then you're friends forever. So I love that about coffee. Speaking of which, it's a question that I always ask, but what would you like to see in the future of coffee?
Well, that's especially now, a very tricky question, because I think the whole game is upside down now because so many shops had to close. So I wish I could talk about extreme new innovations, anything else, but actually in the moment, I just wish that I go back to the places I've visited and the shops are still there. That's actually the main thing that I care for in the moment.
I think that's absolutely correct. Yeah, I hope that too. Too.
So that's my future wish for the coffee industry, that hopefully all of the shops that are doing a great job can survive.
And I'm feeling very confident and positive because I've been in the industry on the road as well. So I used to work for a coffee roaster in Sydney, but here in Melbourne. And so you get to know the people on the street. Yeah, I wrote that. I'm going to read that comment myself, but I think I know what it means. Thanks to D-Train. I mean, that's said that you made him a very amazing, very nice espresso in Rostate. Thank you, in 2016. Yeah. I actually studied German for like 14. Yeah. I studied German like for 14 years, but I forgot it all. It's one of my biggest regrets.
14 years.
Yeah, because I'm coming from Gardasee, so it's like, you know, it's like Südtirol, you know, pretty much. So
That's
that's my biggest regret. I don't care about studying too much. I'm not academic, I've never been. My mom would kill me because she's a teacher, and you know, I didn't go to uni. But my biggest regret is not my German didn't stick with me, and I was like, damn. But anyway, but that sentence was simple enough for me to read.
Yeah.
Now I think I feel positive about coffee shop staying open, especially the ones that you described of, the ones that were doing a good job. I think that unfortunately there were a lot of shops that they opened thinking that coffee was going to be easy and could have been a cool investment.
Coffee is
We know
never
it.
easy.
We know it, exactly, especially if you don't know how to cook, or if you don't know how to run it, or if you don't know how to make coffee. So if you miss one of the three or all of them, you need at least one or two, I believe. And even then it's hard. I think the people who were doing a good job, they were also doing the most kilos of the street. So there were a lot of shops that were already a little bit in trouble before the virus. And it's going to be sad, but there's going to be, obviously, we need to be realistic and natural selections of which are going to survive. And hopefully the people who are not, who will close the doors will find something for the next chapter in life. But it's a strong community that we have, and we all do our small things. We do yoga videos, making cocktails to cheer up baristas who are bored at home. We do live streams. We do what we can, free classes on Zoom. And I think that we saw really the community to get together and say, hey, it's going to suck, but we can't stay here and cry and dwell and dig ourselves a hole. We just got to come back out of it. And it's just going to be everyone's effort, from farm to roaster to wholesale clients to the customers. So someone will start to pay a little bit more for something, and then it'll start, you know, we'll see a different processes for sure.
Yeah, I think I'm very excited about to see what happens afterwards. Like, I think a lot of people now have a lot of time to really focus on projects, and all of these Zoom meetings already show us that we could do parts of our job that we thought we had to do in a certain place, and now we can be very flexible with this, and this means we can achieve other goals in the meantime. So I think this is going to be a very exciting thing. I think there's obviously, like you, lots of people interviewing. I love listening to a lot of podcasts, for example, that have this topic, or yeah, great video content. Incredible. So many professional training videos are getting recorded in the moment, so that end consumers can actually now get educated at home. Impressive.
Yeah, and it's free too for most cases. So
yeah,
it's there's a lot of good resources, and yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's funny. I was talking to a friend of mine. He's a personal trainer, and he's been training me because, you know, we've been training together. And he trains me from home now. And I was like, we could have done this for the past 2 years, you know, like like video calls and all that. So it's kind of nice that, given health and financial and mental health are in check, we're able to actually now unlock different ways to communicate and produce content and distribute content to our niche and our industry 100%. So if you I'm really intrigued though by how many things that you've been doing, and you know, it takes a whole lot of skills of set to be a barista and being fast on the machine. I've been there on those high volume accounts because I used to be a barista. I know the feeling. You know, one stage you feel like you're on drugs or something, because you're like, reality is just going slower, but you're going faster than reality. I don't know if that makes sense. It's like metrics. But then training, it takes a whole different set of skills, because it's a lot about communication, and to be a good trainer, you need to be a good teacher. And then roasting, you know, you need, it's interesting because roasting, a lot of times a lot of roasters are a little bit introverted, because it's like you and the roaster going for a spin and a dance for, you know, the whole day. Baristas is constant people, like in a lot of crowds, and trainers is like one-on-one. So which one, obviously you said already that you like smashing it, but what would it be your ideal role that you could create? It doesn't exist, and you're like, I want to become the first, I don't know, coffee artist that paints and, I don't know, on top of a coffee machine. I don't know, something, whatever, but what would that be? What would that look like for you?
Well, I think with my last job, I already had the perfect combination of all of this. I think I was 3 days on the machine, and then I was a day or two roasting, and then 1 day only training. So there was a very, very good mix of everything that I could do. And then I like to, as I've already said, I quite like to talk myself down, because when you do bar, all you have to do is be fast and clean and organized. And roasting is pretty much like driving a truck. Like you have to do your license, and this is the main part. And after that, you just have to stay focused, but it's really boring sometimes, because it's the roaster spinning and you're just like, there's things that you can't miss. So like driving a truck, it's very important to stay focused, but it's also really boring. And when I was teaching people, I think when I give a class, I put over 200% of my energy in it. I'm like a little rubber ball that's bouncing in the whole room, and then constantly talking about private experience that I've made. So I think that they can relate to it. And usually people don't expect it from me, but they go out and they're like, oh my God, I actually understood what she said and what she meant, which is what I want to achieve, because your time is very limited in one of those classes. So yeah, I don't think it is a lot that I do. I just think I do a lot of different things where I'm kind of like, okay, good at.
I think that this is where I come in and I say, look, you're doing fantastic. You know, all of the three things that we spoke, they are by themselves arts. You know, roasting is like cooking, and cooking is like, you know, an art. Teaching, you know, you go back in the ancient Greeks and Romans, like being a teacher and a philosopher and being a mentor, that you're able to teach someone that go from 0 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. It's amazing, not just for the result, but also the impact that you've made on someone's life. And being a fast barista is amazing for A, business, B, for the customers, and you're making, you know, a quarter of Berlin's coffee, or, you know, or Canberra. That's pretty good and essential. I think that, yeah, you're right. Maybe you do, maybe took a little bit step down, because I think it's what I find amazing is that usually I met a lot of roasters, a lot of baristas, a lot of trainers, and they gravitate towards one or other, where you seem to have the whole spectrum and the whole
I'm just hovering around.
It's great. It's great. It's super balanced.
What's that? Can I do that? Yeah.
It's super balanced. You know, I couldn't roast for the love of life. I did a little bit with my previous job. Like I was like, you know, spending a day with the roasters, and I was in front of their 5 kilo roasting filter, and I was sitting on a chair, on a stool, and the roaster was talking, and I was like, so what we do now? And it's like, we wait. And I was like, okay. I need talk. I need this. Like, this is me. Yeah. Like, the more people, the better. So I was like, man, I couldn't do that. So I think you're doing amazing that you can actually do the 3 and the 4 with the coffee.
What I always had with coffee is that I was always very interested in learning myself. So when I was roasting, whilst I was waiting, constantly read books about roasting, like the Scott Rao, I think, manifest about roasted for roasters. That's really, really good. And it's really complicated for me because it's also all in English. So I kind of like had to read everything 12 times before I understood it. And then every time like every single item that was in the bar, it's really embarrassing if you go to a place and you work with a machine and you never asked about how this machine works. But I think all of us do it. So all of us go somewhere, they use a boiler, they use something, they use a machine, and they're kind of like coming at one stage to this point where they don't really know how it works. But it's important to know how it works so you can fix stuff or you can understand why stuff is happening. So, and this is no joke, of all of the machines we had in our bar, I Googled the manual and I've read the manual of all of our machines. That was very tricky because we also were selling a lot of machines. And this is why I read all of the manuals for all of hand grinders that are kind of like on the market and all of the machines that we were selling, which at the same time made me very good at teaching because then I could explain just tiny things that I read about, and then was like, so that's super easy why this happens like this. It's because of this and this screw, and if you replace it with another screw, then so I think that helped me a lot, being like kind of okay in all of these things. Like obviously being a barista, you just have to be chatty and be good with your customers. Maybe remember the names and their orders. That would be great. Yeah. But reading manuals, that's an inside tip. Read the manuals to your machines. That's really, really good and helpful because that's the only way how I could start repairing machines or taking them apart and like building them back together. It was really cool.
I've lots of respect. I mean, I could not imagine something more boring than a manual. You know, like I struggle to read a good book because that's me. But it's good, and I think that's so good though. Like that's really good. Like some people used to call us because they didn't know how to clean a Mythos one grinder, which is one of the most simple things to do. You know, trying to reconvert it is like just cleaning, and even I know how to do that. And it's like. It's like, yeah, wow, you read every single manual. That's amazing. I think more people, I hope that lots of people are going to rewatch this and I'm like, damn, I need to read at least a manual of my machinery because you're right. If you know your tools, we go back at cooking.
Like, yeah, I mean, it's like even understanding a manual, a lever machine to a normal 9-bar machine. Like, why is it different? What does it do? Where's the pump? Why is there no pump? What's the pump? All of these things, they help you understand how you can, like we're all talking about extracting flavor and blah, 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 blah. But if we don't know the machines that extract it actually, then we will not really understand why it tastes different in a different size basket, for example.
Yeah. And look, I think you have high standards and maybe towards, you want to, it's great. It's like a form of almost perfectionism, which you want to be on all forms of coffee, of the coffee bean. Let's imagine a big coffee bean. You want to be in the middle, on the top, on the right, on the left, and you're just tackling all this knowledge and like a sponge, just trying to absorb manuals and barista tips and flavors and all of it. So I'm very excited to see what's going to be next for your journey, because I think that you're in the right place to even explore further things that you haven't searched yet for it. I'm very excited to see where you go next, and hopefully we're gonna meet at MICE this year if it still happens. But obviously I'll be floating around, and I'd love to grab coffee with you and all the people around you and whatnot. Instagram, it was so good to talk to you. Instagram, we shut the live in about 4 minutes because we spoke for 60.
Oh my God.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. We can keep going, but I'm sure you got stuff to do. Usually ask the question, what's next on your planet? I know that you talked about COVID, but I'm going to add one more thing. what's gonna be also your next tattoo as soon as the tattoo studio reopens?
Oh my God, that's a good question because yesterday I got my delivery and I ordered myself a tattoo gun. So, so I think I'm just gonna do a couple of tattoos on my own skin, and then yeah.
Of course.
I can tell you
I'm
the last
sure.
one. The last
Yeah,
one was
sorry,
a
go
pig
on.
with wings. The last one was a pig with wings.
Sounds about right. And no, for sure. And it doesn't surprise me that you bought a tattoo gun, and I'm sure you already read the manual.
Yes, I did for a whole day. Yeah, I know how it works.
There you go. Well, do you know what? I'll tell you a funny story. I actually had my first tattoo booked for the 28th of April. I booked it about a couple of months ago. But obviously, the studio is closed, so there you go. You're ahead of
What
me
was
in that
it?
department. It's like it's my when my grandpa leaves, he has two Japanese trees. It's called loquat. I'm sure you probably know that fruit. It's like orange fruit, and I just wanted 7 leaves and 6 fruits. It's cool. It's going to be a cool drawing, but I already had another 5 or 6 ideas. It's just because my goal for 2020 is to say yes to all the things that I used to say no.
Okay, don't do drugs. Okay, just saying. Just saying.
Good point. Good point. Good point.
Okay.
I mean, obviously within limits, but all those, even the small stuff. But yeah, good point. I like where you're going. Yes, aside from drugs and drinking 16 Irish coffees,
Yeah.
probably, yeah, I'm going to say no to that. I'm super grateful and blessed that we had this chat. It was great. We should do it more in a couple of months or whenever, and just see where you're at and meet up at mice and whatnot. And it was very good to meet you. If there's anything that you want to drop before the end, please. The stage is yours.
It was very great to be on here. Thank you so much. And I'm definitely going to tune in for the next couple of lives because I think on Sunday, Agnieszka is on as well. So I'm very, very excited for that.
Yeah, I was lucky to meet her last year. She came and she was hosting an event, and and pretty excited too. And I've been super happy with everyone because everyone that's been coming on, they all have such great amount of assets. All of you guys are just amazing, and we all look up to you, and we all want you to succeed for sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Take it. Take it. I know you don't want to, but just take it.
Okay.
Maybe
Okay, cool.
maybe your next manual is gonna be self-love and hey, I'm good. That's your next manual.
No, I think only once I go place better than I've placed, maybe it'll sink in.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I get you. I get you. No, you're amazing. Trust me. We all know that. And very happy to have you on, and we'll talk soon. Thank you very much. Auf Wiedersehen. Tschüss.
Tschüss.